Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another unboxing and review, and today we are featuring the battle damaged ED-209 from the original Robocop film. This is produced by Hiya Toys. I believe this is a 1/18th scale accessory. It's classified as an exquisite mini. Not entirely sure what that is. I believe this is my first foray into a Hiya Toys collectible. I know that they make 1/18th scale action figures. They dabble in Aliens, Predator, and I also want to say DC Comics in the form of the Injustice League video game. Or Injustice video game, not Injustice League. My mistake there. Okay, so it's a 1/18th scale ED-209. Says here, Exquisite Mini is a new standard setting series for 1/18th scale featuring super articulation action figures under Hiya Toys. And here we have some photos of the ED-209. Keep in mind this is the battle damaged version. I purchased this recently. I believe it came out maybe just last month. I think January of 2022. I might be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure. And I don't think they offer a non-battle damaged version. I believe it's only the battle damaged version that's out right now. If I'm wrong, just correct me in the comments below. Like I said, I'm kind of new to the world of Hiya Toys. So let's get started. So I'm a big fan of like the original Robocop films. I remember like really loving the first film when I was younger. I think that came out back in maybe like 1987. I fell in love with the ED-209. I think that design is just awesome for a mech. So when I saw this, I had to jump on board because it's 1/18th scale, and for me, the closest thing I have to that scale in terms of an ED-209 is the original Kenner version of the ED-209, but that was called the ED-260. Alright, so we got him out of the box, and he's protected by this two-piece plastic tray. And here we have the ED-209 by Hiya Toys. Looks fantastic. And I can tell you right now, the quality of the build, I want to say it feels like a premium collectible. So in that sense, it's like, don't get nuts with it. It doesn't feel like it has the durability of like an actual child's toy. This feels like it's meant to be handled by an adult collector, because it just feels, I mean, the quality of the plastic feels nice, but at the same time it just feels a little like, you know, it kind of feels like handle me gently, you know. So alright, so let's take a look at the ED-209 by Hiya Toys. So the reason why this is battle damaged, if you've seen the original Robocop film, one of his arms, his left arm here, took some damage, so it's kind of like blown apart at the top. So it has some battle scarring, some burn marks, and some of the wires are exposed. But yeah, right now I'm just really impressed. And over here, there's a battery compartment because I believe this thing makes noise. So let me remove the plastic tab here and see if we can activate the actual battery function. Okay, so it sounds like the thing does talk. Alright, so let's get started with our review. First off, the sculpting on this is beautiful. It looks, you know, exactly like how I remember the ED-209. The proportions look great. It has that texture on the upper dome. It's almost kind of like a carbon texture. Really awesome. The plastic finish is nice. It doesn't look like cheap plastic. The actual finish of the plastic resembles the kind of like very like light grayish blue that the ED-209 encompasses in the film. It has all the wonderful details sculpted in, as you can see here. Like the upper parts of the hind legs has that kind of like rail device, and there's kind of like all the little tiny teeth in the rails, which looks awesome. There's the pistons, which are sculpted in, some indents and rivets. There's wires protruding from the elbows. The one thing that kind of turns me off from this is that you can kind of see the mold lines right here. So it's not completely seamless and clean, but you know, for this scale of toy, I think that's a little bit forgivable. It looks like these upper pieces here are articulated. As you can see, there's a hinge. So these are kind of like the upper shoulder guards. They're very tight. I'm afraid to move them. And there's the grill, nice detail sculpted in on there. All right, let me try to adjust my lighting because this doesn't want to play with my lighting correctly. So let's see if we get this better lit. All right, that's a lot better. Okay. All right, so yeah, very, very clean, professional build quality on this. I'm really impressed with the weathering and the paint job here. Like you can see, there's like subtle like burn marks on this shoulder pad. Very clean paint application where the rivets are. The rear vents look very clean. And nice details all around. Looks great. Yeah, I like the very subtle weathering effects that are seen throughout the model. Let's get this back into focus. All right, now my camera doesn't want to focus. Just give me a second. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you can see there's some really great fine details there. There's even appears to be some edge highlighting on the corners and edges of the body armor. Subtle scratches right there look great. Yeah, there's a real good sense of realism with the paint job. So yeah, here's the rear view. Again, the top view. Really love this texture here. It's very accurate to the ED-209. Okay, so in terms of articulation, the top part, it rotates. It's kind of loose. I would have appreciated more if it was ratcheted, but I don't think that's the case. It's just a very loose-fitting top half. You know, it doesn't click or anything of the sort, or at least mine doesn't. As I pointed out earlier, these upper shoulder guards are articulated, so they can fold up and they can fold down. Like that. Now his arms, there's an elbow joint right there, so they go open and close like that. And then his arms can also rotate. Now this feels ratcheted. You can kind of feel the indents, and it kind of clicks a little also. Let me get my microphone on here. Okay, here's my mic. Maybe we can kind of hear it, or maybe not. And since my mic is on here, let's so there's a button located on his rear right side right there, and if you press the button, there's like sound effects. Let me see if I can find where the speaker is at. Alright, so I hope you could hear that. So some of the sound effects so far, it mimics gunfire, it mimics the robot walking, and I believe there's also like verbal commands or warnings that the ED-209 gives. Let's see if we could pull up any of those.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply. Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
Alright, so it sounds like the ED-209 maybe only has like 3 or 4 different audio samples. There's the machine gun noises, there's the sound of the hydraulics as it walks, and there's also the verbal warning about surrendering your weapons or putting your weapons away. So yeah, very impressive figure. So this thing stands in at about, let me get my ruler. So this thing's 1/18 scale, and you're looking at a height of about, a little under 6 inches. So this is made to accompany Hiya Toys' line of Robocop action figures that also come in at 1/18 scale. They have a couple of different versions of Robocop, I think, and in the near future, I think towards the end of the year, they're coming out with a Kane Robocop 2. I'm still fiddling around with the articulation here, seeing what else moves besides the arms. The legs are ratcheted, which I'm discovering just now, so they could move. It feels like the leg could possibly be pulled downward, but because if you look, there's the rails here, and maybe the legs could extend down, but there's a little bit of play, but it's kind of tight, so I'm not sure if that's actually meant to be moved. Oh, I take it back, it is. So I think there's a button on the inside of the leg right there, and I believe if you press that down, I might be wrong on that. Okay, I'm wrong on that. For a second, I thought maybe if these were buttons and if you pressed them in, the leg would extend, but I don't think that's the case. There are no instructions, so it's pretty vague on what's like actually movable. Give me a second. Let me double check the box again. Yeah, so there's no instructions whatsoever. So if the legs could extend and go down, I don't know how to do that. But I can tell you this, looking at the feet underneath, the toes are articulated so that you can actually bend the toes. And there's that really cool scene in the film when the ED-209 is like trying to walk downstairs, and it kind of like uses its feet to kind of like feel out the ground below it or beneath it. So it's kind of cool that you can actually fold the toes in and out. So yeah, very cool, very solid action figure. Like I said, this thing, it's super detailed. It feels and looks very premium. The paint job alone, I think, is a perfect 10. The sculpting is near perfect. Some issues with articulation, just because I'm not sure what can move and what can't. I kind of wish the dome up here, the upper part of the mech, was kind of like ratcheted. It's just kind of loose fitting, as you can see. But yeah, for a 1/18 scale collectible, it's amazing. And since we're on the subject of ED-209, here is the original Kenner ED-260 from Kenner's Robocop toy line from back in the day. I want to say this came out back in 1989. So you're looking at a toy that's pretty old. If I'm doing my math correctly, it's about maybe 10, 30, maybe like it's over 30 years old. So you're looking at a toy here that's maybe, I don't know, 31 to 32 years old. For whatever reason, the original Kenner toy wasn't called the ED-209. Instead, they called it the ED-260. And if you look at it, it's pretty much the ED-209. You know, it has all the details, much like this one. Here, let's compare an overhead view with the original Kenner toy here, with the Hiya toys on the left. So as you can see, it's very apparent that the Kenner toy was modeled after the original ED-209. Here's a front view. You know, the proportions are the same. It has many of the same appendages. The details they're not near identical, but they're close enough. Here's a side view for comparison. And one thing that the Kenner toy had also is that towards the back of this compartment was a cap feature. So if you grew up during the 70s and 80s, you'll remember cap guns, and they were kind of like these small little, like, for this one, in the case of this, it was like a paper roll of caps, and caps are almost like small, tiny little like packets of, maybe, I think it might have been gunpowder, and then you take that roll of like paper. It was very thin. It was red. You'd reel it through and thread it through here, and then you'd close the compartment, and then this is almost like the hammer of a gun. You pull this and snaps, and it'd make like a popping noise, and then there'd be like a puff of smoke, and it'd actually smell like gun smoke or something. So yeah, this is the Kenner version of the ED-209, the ED-260. And here's the Hiya Toys version. I also have some Robocop action figures that we could compare it to. So this is the original Kenner Robocop action figure. His helmet and his gun are somewhere else. And much like the ED-209 here, this guy also incorporated caps in his backpack. So you'd open this up, and then you'd thread the roll of caps in here, close it, and then if you wanted like Robocop to like fire off his weapon, you pull back on the hammer, release, and then it'd like make the sound of like a gunshot, and there'd be like a puff of smoke. So this was the scale with this figure. This action figure here is about the size of like a vintage Star Wars action figure. So you're looking at something that's maybe between 3 3/4 to 4 inches. And is made to be in scale with this guy here. This action figure on the left, I believe, was made by, I think, Toy Island back in the day. There's a line of like Robocop action figures that like KB Toys used to carry in their stores. So if you grew up in the 80s or 90s and you had a KB Toys in your local mall, chances are you might remember these Robocop action figures. They're roughly the same scale as the Kenner ones. They're a little bit more detailed, but they don't have the cap blasting feature here. So yeah, this gives you a good idea of the scale that the Hiya Toys one is, you know. And lastly, alright, so let's bring out the Big Daddy. This is the giant Neca. I think it's a 1/12 scale ED-209. Unfortunately, mine broke. I went to go get it like from my shelf on my display, and immediately when I picked it up, when I lifted it up, it was like this on display, and then when I picked it up, only the top half came off. So apparently over time, the glue wore out, and it doesn't hold the two pieces together, and I was shocked that the only thing holding this together was a thin stream of glue right there. You know, this thing didn't screw into the lower torso, it didn't plug in, it was just simply glued by like a small dab of glue. So for a very, very premium collectible that I spent a lot of money on, it's very disappointing that the quality control isn't the greatest on this. Much like the smaller one, this one is also has battery function. There's a compartment here for the battery, and much like the Hiya Toys one, there's even a button located in the same area, and you press it, and this also makes noise. Let's see if it still works. Alright, so the Neca one's cool. It almost seems like the Hiya Toys one lifted a page from the Neca one, because they share similar audio clips. And it really feels like this Hiya Toys one is this the old Neca one just shrunk down. The Neca one's nice. If you have any 1/12 scale Robocop action figures, this thing's perfect for it. Here's the upper half. Features a lot of the same articulation as the Hiya Toys. The shoulders open and close. The arms rotate. They go out. And like I said, mine, it's split in half. You know, at some point in time, I have to fix this, so I'll have to glue this piece again back to the lower torso. And it's kind of crappy the way this thing's put together. You know, it's ridiculous because both halves are pretty big and hefty, and you know, you figure they'd put more thought into attaching the two pieces together, but it's very bare minimum. Not a whole lot to hold these two things together, and over time, the one leg is super loose, and I never handled this. You know, the most I handled this toy is when I first bought it, like maybe like 8 or 10 years ago. So very disappointing that it doesn't really, you know, function like it did when I first got it. But it's cool, you know, if you have a 1/12 scale Robocop, this is a great accessory to have. And I'm trying to get this on top. So yeah, it would look like this completed. It's gigantic, as you can see. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Okay, so if you're a fan of Robocop, I can't recommend this enough. I think it's fantastic. I don't know if there's a non-battle damage version of this thing available yet. This is the only one I saw. It popped up on Amazon recently for me, and I think I bought it directly through Amazon. I don't think it was a third-party seller. And I think its release date was maybe just like last month. But I might be wrong on that. Not 100% sure on that yet. But it's great. I think I want to say I paid under $50 for this. I might have paid anywhere between $44 to $48. It seemed a little bit pricey, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of the ED-209, and I couldn't turn this away. So yeah, great collectible. It's awesome that it has, like, you know, functionality in terms of, like, you know, the sound effects. I really dig that. It's super articulated, and if you have like a Robocop display, I think it's cool to have a ED-209. It's kind of like Robocop's eternal nemesis. Alright, so wrapping this video up, once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll talk to you at the next one.